Hey, what's going on, everybody? Alex here, aka Zero, and this is a little out of character for me. Normally, I do my soapboxes at the beginning of a stream. Today, I gotta talk about Project L. Everyone's talking about it, right? If you've been living under a rock or just not paying attention to the latest Riot Games news, a new trailer has come out for Project L, the League of Legends fighting game. Well, congratulations for those looking forward to it. Now, the Cannon brothers had a fantastic presentation on the idea that they were going for when approaching Project L. They addressed the netcode questions that everyone is undoubtedly going to ask for every modern fighting game going forward. They also addressed the style of the game. It's going to be a 2v2 fighter, a tag fighter at that. The fighter will feature an accessible input option to help players new to fighting games and veterans all find something to love without the restriction of inputs. So, BB Tag fans, rejoice, as the easy to pick up, difficult to master game is... you have inputs. Okay, hold on. Dragon Ball Fighters, you're gonna be Granblue Fantasy versus players. Also, okay, wait. I want to be clear, we are not knocking accessibility here. That's first and foremost. I mean, look at how fun Power Rangers Battle for the Grid combos look. And they are by no means just super easy to execute. It also scratches that itch in some way of classic Marvel. Sure, it's not one-to-one, but the similarities are there. That's really hard to argue. I want to point your direction to some examples that we have from the past, and even some up-and-comers. Looking at Fantasy Strike, Rising Thunder, and the upcoming Metal Revolution, the changes to an accessible control scheme has always been a topic of contention. I mean, even the Cannon brothers in this video were hesitant to let you in on the secret. So we all know accessibility and lowering barriers to entry brings in a whole new opportunity for fresh players. But why does the notion of adding more players to the pool seem to scare veterans and old heads in the FGC? Or creates this really strange and bizarre, instinctual, carnal rage to be territorial? That came about for DBFZ. Auto combos be too simple. And even for Guilty Gear Strive, simplify Guilty Gear, not okay. Not in my Guilty Gear. Why don't you just take me out of the knees while you're at it? Well, if there's anything that we've learned from the past, we really need to just get a game in our hands before really passing judgment. From an accessibility standpoint, I think of Project L's most direct competitors. I think about Granblue Fantasy Versus, which is a long legacy of a game coming out only 5 years after the release of League of Legends in 2009. And it's only a gacha mobile game by comparison. And then I also look toward the latest teaser drop of DNF Duel from Dungeon Fighter Online, an MMO-light 2D beat-em-up that has seen plenty of longevity, as well as starting out in 2005. I was keeping math, that was 4 years before League came out. You're welcome. Granblue had what I thought to be the best solution to the ever-elusive input execution problem for newcomers by using an ability button and a direction, much like that of Smash Bros., which is also coincidentally what seems to be Project L's angle at this problem. You could use those abilities and EX abilities with ease. The game implemented a block button as well to help with tricky cross-up situations. Granblue Versus also featured a fairly robust RPG mode, well, by fighting game standards at least. Before I get too into the weeds on this game, I want to refocus. The introductory system for players to use special moves was spectacular. Then beyond that, if the player wanted to get more advanced or stick with the game, and also get a little bit more reward for doing so, the game still allowed for the actual input of those special moves. Unfortunately, poor netcode and a lack of offline events didn't exactly give this game the rightful opportunity it deserves. But here's to events like CEO for putting Granblue Versus out there on the map once again. Thanks, Bailey. Yeah. So I guess you're probably wondering at this point, why in the world would I bring up DFO's DNF, Dungeon Fighter Online, that is, formerly a Tencent published game, which is funny because Riot's owned by Tencent. Well, it's in my opinion that DNF Duel, Dungeon Fighter Online, is in a pretty strong position when compared to its direct competitors, that of Granblue or even for Project L. It has an opportunity to really gauge how the scene is going to accept a game like it. DFO is a fantastic brawler with some really strong style. Free to play as well. You can check it out. Thanks Neopol and Nexon for that one. The game is coming hot from Arxis, who has been absolutely killing it in the 2.5D fighting game space. Look at Guilty Gear. The sales figures alone, as far as units sold, is an achievement in and of itself when it comes to fighting games. We have little to no information for DNF, much like Project L, and granted, Project L has been given a little bit more information out there. Personally, for me, DNF style alone, I'm looking forward to the most, which should be no surprise considering the games that I do play and the games that I do commentate. With all that said, why am I so on the idea of Project L? I mean, isn't it going to be that saving grace for the fighting game community? Well, for me, I don't really have that much investment in League of Legends, the world's esport, like soccer is to the world's sport. But there's a ton of hope here coming from the FGC, which I'm personally curious to see how that even turns out. I'm not sold on the idea that this will be the saving grace so much that the FGC is making it out to be. I think that's honestly unfair to the game, but time will tell. When it comes to hope, I think mostly it's the opportunity for bolstering the FGC, but I don't think Project L will do that. If anything, it will give a new avenue and opportunity for a new audience to dip their toes into the genre of fighting games. Teamfight Tactics was that opportunity to inject League for auto chess players from Dota, their real direct competitor, alongside Legends of Runeterra for collectible card game players, competitor Hearthstone, Magic the Gathering Arena, and if you want, Pokemon Online. Unfortunately, I don't quite hear as much about Teamfight Tactics or Legends of Runeterra as I do for their flagship title League of Legends, and certainly not as much as I hear about Valorant. This isn't to say that there is no community around these spin-offs. I mean, the League community is massive. Arcane has been a big success, and they launched 2 side games. An example of what I'm alluding to. Teamfight Tactics, they just had a $250,000 World Championship tournament. That happened in October. Meanwhile, Worlds had a $2.225 million prize pool. While it's not really a fair comparison because look at the marvelous production of Worlds, I'm just apprehensive to think that there will be mind share here. I get the sense that we're really forgetting to temper expectations with this game. Here's some positive thought here though. Thinking about how League of Legends benefits from cosmetics, it might be fair to say that Project L will feature skins similar to League, which then gives opportunity to also bolster pots while making the company money over long-term development, which might push fighting games to do the same. But Capcom has been offering costumes periodically, and often throwing money generated from those costumes into pots for the Capcom Pro Tour. Tekken had an opportunity there with customizable cosmetics. Let's not even get started with the abundance of Dead or Alive costumes. I also think about Killer Instinct really put out the mantle and started out this whole buy one character or play the free rotation character. Is this sounding familiar at all? And oh, you can buy a skin which will benefit the pot. Does KI win again? I suppose the hope is that there will perhaps be additional success in Project L, and it will incentivize other fighting games to follow suit. That's to assume the massive audience of League will jump ship over to the fighting game genre to begin with. There's a whole lot there that is dependent upon a large audience jumping over, much larger than that of what the fighting game community has. And don't get me wrong, the fighting game community does have the population to do great things. Circling back, the casual audience like that from Granblue Versus and the gotcha crowd from the Granblue core game will want something they can pick up and play for a short while and move back to the gotcha game. I mean, that's probably the expectation of that casual crowd jumping into Project L. They want to play the game for a little bit and have that opportunity to explore characters and ways they had it before. But ultimately, they're going to go back to League. There will be the few that do stay, and great, that's awesome. Granblue Versus, for example, their RPG mode was for that casual crowd that was playing the gacha. I mean, it often had cross-promotion codes for the gacha game as well. They even implemented a battle pass to earn cosmetics for the characters in the game. The silver lining here is that the depth was also there for Granblue Versus. And from what we see, and as evidenced by the simplicity of inputs from Battle for the Grid, I think we could expect something similar here. The extremely common topic I see often around this game is the money it will bring the FGC. Again, let's temper some expectations here, but also, I may come across as a storm cloud in the zeitgeist of this hype. So, I'll leave you with a prediction here. I see this game having a league or circuit for a year at least. If, and it's a big if, it does in fact have a second year, it will by no means be as strong as the first year in advertising. And likely the second year is going to have fewer events than the first year. There will be high pots, but I severely doubt it's going to break that million mark. I hope I'm wrong. I truly do. Looking at this realistically, however, there is still opportunity to bolster the FGC here. Run a tournament or spread the word out for Project L tournaments you're participating in, and then meet new people you wouldn't have met otherwise. Make new friends, try something new, try League, try Teamfight Tactics if you're not already playing those games. Don't beat down on the League players, for God's sakes. We're come with the awful attitude of gatekeeping the FGC. We don't need that. We really do not. Well, I mean, let's be honest. League players are generally smarter than practically all of you O2ers anyways. And then after, you can always just introduce them to games that you like. You're a fan of Dragon Ball, or maybe you're a fan of Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter 4. And if they don't like it, that's okay. But remember how many new faces these much more accessible fighting games brought in. If you aren't embracing the opportunity to meet in the middle, this game is not going to benefit the FGC in any way. Also keep in mind, League players come from a really tough community. I joke, but League is definitely a game in which you need experience to play, but you get experience by playing. So, it's like that entry-level job you just applied for. Isn't it, Judith? Isn't it? To wrap up my long-winded soapbox, I just want to say personally, I'll be here waiting for DNF and reuniting with my high school nostalgia of running the game with a male gunner. I hope that Project L is a good time for those that are participating, and I hope it does truly succeed and does a lot of opening for a whole new audience to come in and play fighting games and appreciate them as much as we do. I also hope that it gives an opportunity for other fighting game players to branch out into other games, whether it be Valorant, whether it be Teamfight Tactics, or League of Legends if you're getting into MOBAs. At the end of the day, I also extremely hope that when you jump into this game, you take on the responsibility of being that champion for the fighting game community and be that welcoming arm that brings them into the FGC at large. That being said, what MMO, MOBA, or other game are you looking forward to being turned into a fighting game? Or what are you playing right now that has you excited to share with the new players coming to Project L? Will Project L make you play League, or do you already? Let me know. And we'll see you in the Rift, Summoner. I've been Zero. You can follow me right here at Zero Syndicate and on YouTube, twitch.tv/Zero Syndicate, where I'm playing all sorts of fighting games, and Halo currently conquers my entire life. Until next time, later days.